Hello again, everybody. Zacatech is here with my WWE Hall of Fame ceremony of 2015 review for March the 28th, 2015, going into March 29th as this video is getting uploaded. Before we get to my review of the Hall of Fame ceremony, which of course aired live on the WWE Network for $9.99 G platform. Of course, WrestleMania, as we know, is tomorrow. I'm going to make a review on my channel. I'm going to try to make my review very quickly because I'm doing a review with WWE Analyst and the Ruthless Rants Hair on WWE Analyst's channel tomorrow. So check that out. But since I haven't made any videos about wrestling in a couple days since Brock Lesnar's officially re-signed with WWE, which kind of changes the situation, changes the game getting towards WrestleMania in just a few hours as I'm making this video. So I still believe Rollins will be Money in the Bank and cash it in, but we'll see what happens. But that's WrestleMania. The Hall of Fame was tonight, of course. This is the second year in the world that the WWE Hall of Fame ceremony has been broadcasted live on the network. Until last year, the only way you can watch the entire ceremony, not just the 1 hour blip that was on USA every year, was to get the DVD of WrestleMania. Well, like I said, last year it was broadcasted live on the network. I did not watch the ceremony live, though. I only watched a little bit of it because I had a gig that night. So I watched it on demand a few days later. But I was able to watch the whole entire ceremony tonight live. And include Red Carpet Show, which proves that Maria Menounos is a true WWE fan, in my opinion. But tonight's ceremony was a fun one. Very lengthy, you know. I think it was supposed to be 8 to 11, ended up ending at midnight Eastern Standard Time. About a 4-hour affair. But it was a fun one. You had a little bit of lulls in there. Elizabeth, go. And some great emotional moments, some funny moments. That's what the whole thing's all about. Fun, laughter, and tears shed. So it's a fun night to celebrate the legends of WWE and some people who may or may have earned their honor. Unknown. Anyway, let's talk about the ceremony itself and my favorite moments of the night. We opened up the show with Rikishi getting his induction. Made sense to have the Usos inducted because they're Rikishi's sons and all. It makes sense. They had a great speech about him. And the funny moment was when they had a Rikishi stink face on the screen. They're like, what the hell is our dad wearing? But he's like, that ass paid for cards. That ass paid for us. That was kind of funny. There was, like I said, a lot of funny moments. In balance with the sad moments. Unlike the Grammys, where the sad moments outweigh the funny moments, there's an even balance. So Rikishi came out. He had a decent speech. They were all raised in California. A lot of Samoans are there. You know, a lot of their family. Obviously, not just for Rikishi, but of course for Roman Reigns, who did an okay received. A lot of mixed reception. Think about that ovation, mixed reception, multiplied by 1 million at WrestleMania in just a few hours. So Rikishi's speech was kind of cool, mentioning him being a kid in California, being a poor kid. He didn't mention any of his other characters. They just mentioned the Rikishi character. Although Kevin Nash, in his induction speech, he mentioned Fatu, his former character, when he was in Head Shrinkers. So they never really delved into his whole career, just mostly on the Rikishi character. The one character that clicked that the Usos said. And that was the character that clicked, you know. And it was the last thing impressed. I was a huge, big Too Cool fan. So, me being a big Too Cool fan, I was wishing, secretly hoping, to see Scotty 2 Hotty and Grandmaster Sexy somewhere in the crowd, or at least to come out doing the end when the Usos dance with Rikishi. But I did not see Grandmaster or Scotty. Maybe they're too busy working the indies. But anyway, but it was cool. Not like, even though I wanted to see Too Cool there, they were in a cool moment. Pardon the pun. It was, I accepted them not being here because the Usos had their moment with their dad. That's what made it more special, you know. Seeing them induct their dad and dancing with them with the shades, I was cool doing the whole, you cool clapping. One of them did the warm, so I made up for Sky High not being there. But just to see the Usos have that moment with their dad is kind of poignant, you know. I'm glad no one else came, you know. And I love when Rikishi mentioned all the guys, like mentioned like Umaga, and also mentioned Gangrel. I didn't really had a training facility, and I think they trained Rusev. And he mentioned Gangrel. A lot of that's another great moment of the Hall of Fame. You crowd gawking, you crowd watching the camera focus on the crowd and see what legends you see. Like Gangrel was there, Vader was there, so it's good to see the quick camera go to the crowd a little bit. Who should have had the music go on a little bit sooner than later. Larry Zabisco. Bruno Sammartino inducted him. Makes sense because, they're family. Bruno's speech was okay, but then Larry, he just whambled. I'm sorry, man. Everyone was like, get the hug, play the music. And he kept mentioning Bruno. He kept going back to the same story because he had no speech. Like everybody else had a speech mostly. And they were on iPads, so they can remember it all instead of watching a teleprompter. But Larry just rambled. He kept going the same story. He kept mentioning Bruno. It was losing his train of. At least he admitted it, but it just went on way too fucking long. I'm sorry. He had some points, but the problem was it was just too long. It was like got a little bit dull. That's why the same one lasted to midnight because Larry's speech was too damn long. Larry's the best could be the most incoherent speech, kind of like Mr. T's speech last year. You know, but like I said, Larry's speech was he had some good points. I wish he mentioned his family. He just mentioned Bruno the entire time. That's the thing. He just rambled on. It just went on a little bit too long. He had some good points, but it just very lengthy. Very, like I said, it was just rambling. Felt more like rambling. Then on to probably my favorite speech of the night. There were so many good speeches. My favorite speech of the night was definitely Alonda Blaze, aka Medusa. It's been a debate about especially when you have several superstars who are known by more than one name. They have two names, especially in both WWE and WCW. In most cases, they inducted the people under the WWE name. Like Scott Hall was inducted as Razor Ramon. Alonda Blaze was Alonda Blaze, not Medusa. Yet Kevin Nash got away with it. He got inducted as Kevin Nash, and not as Diesel. But I loved Alondra's speech. He was inducted by Natalia. I was wondering who was going to induct Alondra. And it was Natalia. And I love Natalia's story about Alondra almost beating up Arn Anderson with a shoe. And she mentioned on in the speech. And I liked Alondra's speech because it had the right balance of emotion and funny. Because I like to speak with mentioning of her husband who was there, who was deployed. Mentioning Monster Jam because, of course, for those of you who don't know, she currently is driving a monster truck now named Medusa. And she was supposed to be at the Monster Jam World Final. She had a young girl named Brianna Man taking over for her in the World Final. So, and I knew she was in the Monster Jam, but I didn't know she was World Champion. I think I kind of knew, but not exactly. But I like to speak, talk about her early days in the company, talk about being an innovator for women's wrestling, talking about all the women she wrestled that are no longer with us, like the fabulous Moonlight, Sensational Sherry, and she tailed up and it was a very emotional speech. But I liked the ending when she pulled out the trash can. Symbolism because of course, her moment of her putting the WWE Women's Championship in the trash. There's a lot of WWF references that got bleeped tonight. They can mention WWF in vintage material, but not in current stuff. That's why when you look at WWE Network, another cheap plug for that network, not as many as they do on Wall, but you look at the WWE Network, you look at the old network shows, you look at the shows of the old pay-per-views, you see the F clipped out because you can't use the F in newer material, just in older footage. Little loophole that the WWF World Wildlife Fund gave them. So it's kind of a symbolism to see Alonda Blaze pull out the trash, having the old Alonda Blaze suit, the barbecue sauce gimmick that was in WCW. There were some funny bits in that, and of course pulling out the belt. That was a lot of debate about whether or not she'll bring the belt with her or not. There was even Bischoff's book, slam and people booed Bischoff to hell. And then she pulled out the belt that she threw away. There was speculation about whether or not she'll bring the belt with her or not, and she did. And it was kind of a cool moment. She's like, all you young kids out there know now that I'm the women's champion, not Divas champion, women's champion. And I liked it. It was a heartfelt speech and a very funny speech as well. It had both emotions, So I liked the speech a lot. So there you go. That was my favorite speech tonight, was Alondra's, by a long shot. Because it was just, it dealt with both emotions. But it was a pure tear fast. We got to our next inductee. The first honoree of the Warrior Award, named after the Ultimate Warrior, who of course sadly passed away last year. Given to a person who personifies courage and the warrior spirit. And the honor went to Connor the Crusher McKillick, of course, the young kid that WWE kind of took under their wing as a fan of Daniel Bryan and kind of stole the hearts of WWE superstars. And that was just a pure tear fest. It was just pure crying. Because you had Dana Warrior's wife was there presenting the award. A cool award, by the way, with Warrior's face paint on it. Warrior's daughters were there, and they had a big statue of Warrior. They unveiled at Access on stage. I think they did an okay job for what they did. I think they should have made it a whole lot better, but still was a cool pose. His face doesn't look like his, but hey, just nitpicking. People may feel the same though. But Dana talked about his, going through a year, and I'll give, I think, Connor's dad, who accepted the honor, said that he probably will say the same thing I am. That'll give Dana Warrior credit for holding on and getting through this seamlessly unimaginable tragedy with such grace. A whole year. About next week will be the 1 year anniversary of when Warrior passed away, and to see her get through that with just grace and don't let it get to her. She said it in her speech. And there was a mention about Connor's Cure Foundation about raising $1 million to do something crazy. How about putting it on the ring? She said she'd like go in the ring and shake the whoops if they raise $1 million. How about putting it on the face paint? That would be more cooler. But then Daniel Bryan came out to make the official induction of Connor, which makes sense because Connor's favorite wrestler was Daniel Bryan. And Daniel Bryan took a liking to him. And Daniel was full of emotion. And I knew his speech. I knew when this was announced, I was like, expect the waterworks. Boy, there was a lot of them, especially when Connor's dad came out. And he said that my favorite wrestler was the Ultra Warrior when I was a kid. So to see Connor get awarded an award named after my favorite wrestler, presented by his favorite wrestler, he'd be so proud right now if he was here. And then probably the most tearworks moment was when the moment that everyone was just bawling was when Jackson, Connor's younger brother, came out to end the speech by saying, "I love you, Connor." And that was just tears were popping shed. I don't show emotion that often, but I almost cried. I almost cried at Alondra's speech and almost cried during Connor's dad's speech. But after the waterworks of the last two inductees, we had a much well-needed comic relief in the Bushwhackers speech. We were inducted by John Laurinaitis, the former Executive Vice President of Television Relations and former General Manager of Raw and SmackDown. So I didn't know that Johnny Ace was the flag guy for the Sheephunters, the original name for the Bushwhackers. I think I saw the one Sheephunters match in a tag team tournament once. I think I saw like a tag team tournament clip once, and I saw like an early match of the Sheephunters and the Bushwhackers. And they came out, and Luke looked great. I read that Butch was in bad health. He was in a wheelchair, but he came out on a crutch. And Butch's voice is not aged almost, but like it stands like the gravelly voice. I called Butch the New Zealand version of Gilbert Gottfried because just his delivery and his voice, like, "Hey, mate!" It makes you want to laugh like Gilbert Gottfried. Like every time Gilbert Gottfried says something, just the way he delivers it makes you want to laugh. And that's what Butch's speech is. And it was just a fun speech. Say all you want about the Bushwhackers being there. They were like mid-carders. And then again, he made the championships. And awards for prestige in the company. The reason why I think that they inducted him, and the reason why I think they were after the two speeches that were waterwork moments, Alundra and Connor, was the Bushwhackers exemplified fun. Their characters in WWE were fun. Fun-loving Bushwhackers from Australia, the marching, the licking. They personified fun, and their speech was fun. And that's what we need now in this economy, in this current place we live in. We need a little bit of fun. And that's what Bushwhackers are and will and still are fun. And I like the speech. It was funny, chaotic. It wasn't rambling like Larry's speech. It was just, it was like a fun callback to watch because it was just insanity. And at the end, when I think Luke didn't want to lick Butch, but then Butch licked Luke, and the fans were saying yes, yes. And Luke was like, no, no, and that was funny when Luke licked Butch at the end, or Butch licked Butch licked Luke at the end of the speech. So there you go with that. It was a funny speech, especially coming after the Waterworks speeches that were Alundra Blaze and Connor the Crusher. So there you go. Now on to I call this the bathroom break portion of the show because some people like me may not know this person well. He's not well known in the mainstream because he's a Japanese wrestler. You didn't get the name right here. Inducted by Ric Flair, by the way. His name, Japanese wrestler, was Tatsumi Fujinami, famous Japanese wrestler, and Flair wasn't rambling as usual. He had a decent speech but talk about Tatsumi, and he said, nothing against Great Muta, one of the most, probably more recognizable Japanese faces because he hit the mainstream more than Tatsumi did. But he said Tatsumi's the greatest Japanese wrestler of all time. No offense to Muta, who's a great wrestler himself. So, Tatsumi came out, you can tell he doesn't speak English as a permanent language because he's Japanese, you know. He was like speaking a little bit of broken English, but he did okay in his speech, you know. It was short but sweet. Because I've seen all these guys like Carlos Colon, all these foreign wrestlers who aren't that well known to American fans, don't get that much time to speak. Especially after Larry Sebastian just rambled for about 45 minutes. It felt long. Sorry, Larry, but you just rambled on too long. You look good, doll, but your speech didn't look too good, buddy. Like speaking of people, like Lakeisha looked good. I think a lot of the players / producer had some work done, but she looked good. Then you'd have Macho Man Randy Savage next. He was the draw. He was the first guy, but it made sense to have him not be the last guy because he's dead. He's not able to accept the honor. But Kevin Nash, who was last, he was only announced a week ago. You know what I mean? You know, Macho Man was announced from the fucking get-go. And Kevin Nash was last, and he wasn't even officially named till like last week. You know what I mean? So that didn't make sense to me. The only reason why they did Kevin Nash is because he's alive, and plus the click was there, which I'll get to in a second. You know, ego Kevin Nash, but hey, he's Kevin Nash, you know. But anyway, you had Hulk Hogan and Doug Savage, speaking of egos. You know, these two had massive egos that had a falling out. And a lot of people were very not happy that Hogan was the one to induct Savage. I even read on Twitter that some people said that Ricky Steamboat should have inducted Savage, which would have made a lot more sense because they had a classic match at Mania, probably my favorite Mania match. Not just my favorite Mania match of all time, but my favorite overall match of all time. Never gets old to watch. So everyone knows about the Hogan Macho story behind the scenes, so a lot of people were kind of surprised to see Hogan induct Savage because of the past brutal, fiery history. Apparently they patched things up, well that's what Hogan said. So they came out, you induct Savage, and you had a decent inductive speech. And then of course, since Macho wasn't there, sadly, Lanny Poffo and the Genius came out to accept the honors. And I was like, he has to do a poem. He has to do a poem. He did a poem to start off, and that was a cool poem. And even kind of for you diehard WWE fans out there, that he kind of said it kind of changed a little bit with some alterations. His poem that he said for the Macho Man Randy Savage when he became Macho King Randy Savage. He really paid attention to it. He did the same exact speech he did for the Macho King during his inauguration. Instead of saying like, for a king there is a queen. Instead of saying Sherry's name, Lanny mentioned Barbara's name, who was Savage's wife as he was before he passed. You know. So they didn't mention Elizabeth a little bit, but a lot of people wear Macho Man shirts and stuff. I'm wearing my Macho Man shirt. I'm Macho Man out from my head. I don't know if you can see my socks. Macho Man from my head to my toes. I was even snapping some Slim Jims during a speech, so you have to. You had to at least snap into a Slim Jim. Ooh, yeah. Indeed. But I like Laney's speech. You know, it was very short but sweet. You know, and, well, let's just say short and bittersweet, because I would have loved to have seen Macho there, you know, sad. And Vince patched things up with the war when he was still alive, yet he couldn't do that for Macho when he was still alive, putting him in the Hall of Fame. That those grudges didn't go down until his passing, so that's sad. That it only took his death to finally get him in. But taken as it is, it was still fun to see him finally get the recognition and seeing his brother accepted with some poems and great words about, you know, Savage's humanitarianism, about local Special Olympics. So it was a cool speech to see. So there you go. Now on to Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now here's the thing. And I think I've noticed it from other WWE Hall of Fames that had the celebrity inductees that sometimes don't deserve it. Some people in the celebrity wing, it's hit and miss. The celebrity wing's kind of hit and miss. There's some people who may kind of deserve the celebrity wing induction, like, you know, Pete Walls, because there's moments and must be recognizable. But some people who get in the celebrity wing may not be deserved, like Drew Carey, Donald Trump, and Arnold, who got booed heavily. Maybe because the state of California didn't forgive him for what he did to the state, or the fact that he's a home wrecker and cheating on his wife with a maid. But, taken as it is, Arnold's speech was decent, though, but, you know, the reaction wasn't there. You know, I have nothing against Arnold, but I don't think he deserves the honor. You know, yes, he appeared on SmackDown and beat the crap out of Triple H. Yes, he's made appearances on Raw as well. Yes, he's an icon in bodybuilding. Yes, he's influenced sports entertainers everywhere that you can achieve anything. I like the speech, though, but, you know, it's just weird to see Arnold in the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. Yes, he's a fan, but sometimes these celebrity inductees are hit and miss. And this was in the middle. You know, I'm mixed about this. You know, nothing against Arnold, but him being in the WWE Hall of Fame is kind of weird. So, there you go. But it was decent nonetheless. Take it as it is. Now, on to the last inductee, Kevin Nash. Now, I thought it was Kevin's ego talking, because you all know Kevin Nash's ego is as inflated as Kim Kardashian's boobs and ass. Kim Kardashian is always a punchline for me, so get used to it. If you are a regular viewer of my videos. Not just these reviews, but my attack lines and sports and all that. Might have seen me make fun of Kim sometimes. Badly. But I thought Kevin's ego was inflated because he was going to be last. Like, oh, would it be last? You know? You know, it just kind of felt weird. Yes, like I said, the reason why I think Macho Man was not last is because, like I said, he's passed away and wasn't able to accept the honor. Now, I've never seen a dead person end the show. You know, like, when Eddie Guerrero passed, he wasn't the last guy. You know? But Macho Man was the big draw. He was the first name. Kevin Nash wasn't even announced till fucking last week, like I said. But taking as it is, I think Kevin Nash does kind of deserve to be last, especially with the click moment. That's become like a signature at the Hall of Fame, especially with all these click guys going in. Shawn, Razor last year, and now this year, Scott Hall, former outsider's partner, Kevin Nash. Now I was like, who's going to induct Kevin Nash? Triple H didn't because he was inducting Arnold. So it came down to two possible picks. Scott Hall or the eventual pick, Shawn Michaels. And Shawn's speech was kind of a funny speech. He's like, I'm going to get in trouble. You know, because I mentioned Vincent's name. It was kind of a funny, kind of a roast speech. Kind of like, because Triple H kind of roasted him during his induction speech. And Shawn kind of roasted Kevin Nash doing a funny induction speech. Talk about finding Kevin Nash as Vinny Vegas in WCW. And calling on a payphone to Rick Steiner. That's also another thing I like about the Hall of Fame. They tell these backstage stories. That's why I like watching the Hall of Fame. And watching all these great speeches telling all these behind-the-scenes stories. It's intriguing. sometimes unless like Larry's the best cool just rambles. So started a great induction speech, and then Kevin Nash came out. You know, I've seen it recently, so his gray hair and stuff. And they did like the Sean did the jump high five, so it's kind of cool. And Kevin Nash's speech was short but sweet. So, you know, like Kevin Nash's speech mentioned Oz. They had a picture of Oz. He's like, "Where's one with the dunce cap?" They had one with the dunce cap in the mask, so that was kind of funny. They had it pulled out, and Kevin's speech was kind of funny about him being, you know, an NWO and him being an innovator because he was the first guy to kind of ask for a guaranteed contract. I think I read somebody's like, I thought Mark Mayer had a guaranteed contract too. So, here you go, Kevin Nash. But still, take away Kevin's ego for a second about being inflated, about having politics in WCW. And, you know, some said he was kind of like one of the main benefactors in crashing WCW because his ego was inflated. He wanted to be the star, blah, 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 blah. But taking his age, Kevin Nash's influence is still undeniable. He was a big, agile, big man. You know, big, sexy, Diesel. The Giant Killer, whatever you want to call Kevin Nash. You know, Oz, Vinny Vegas. You know, his influence is still undeniable. NWO, come on. That single-handedly deserves a Hall of Fame spot because of NWO. Come on, it sparked everything. London Blaze sparked the Monday Night War by dropping the WCW, going to WCW, dropping the WWE Women's title in the trash. Kevin Nash intensified it by starting the NWO with Scott Hall and, of course, Hulk Hogan. So, Kevin's speech was kind of decent to end the night. And then you had the eventual Click reunion with Scott Hall, Shawn, Triple H, and X-Pac. I saw X-Pac in the crowd early in the show, so I knew they're going to go for some sort of Click thing. And Shawn alluded to it in the middle of his speech. He's like, we're going to give you a Click moment, which we will not disappoint. And that's how we ended the Hall of Fame with, you know, the Click, the sign, you know, Whoop-Back sign to end the show. That's why I think they ended with Kevin Nash, because they wanted a good way to end it with the Click on stage. You know, we saw that ending with Shawn Michaels 4 years ago. They did Scott Hall like that too, but Scott Hall wasn't the last guy last year. Warrior was the last guy. But then it ended with the Click this year. You know, even though I have my opinion on Kevin Nash being last, you know, because he wasn't named till last week. You know, Macho Man was announced from the get-go. You know, despite my opinions, I think Kevin Nash was deserved because, like I said, he's alive. He was able to accept. And everyone wants a good ending with the Click up there, with the Click signs. So there you go. That's my thoughts on the WWE Hall of Fame ceremony for 2015 that aired on the network. Of course, I think there will be a 1-hour version on the USA Network. And, of course, the ceremony will also be on DVD with WrestleMania, along with it being on demand on the network. Another the plug-in. That's how I'm watching Mania tomorrow. In just a few hours, I'm gonna try to make a review on here. Probably will, and then also do a podcast with WWE analysts and the Ruthless Rancher on WWE Analyst's channel. So check that out at 11 around between 11:30 and midnight. We're gonna have the podcast on WWE Analyst's channel. So that's what the time we're aiming for, 11:30, 12 o'clock-ish, on WWE Analyst's channel. I will also post the video on my channel, too. So WWE Analyst will have his podcast. It'll be on his channel, and then I'm going to copy the video with his kind of permission, and I'm going to post it on my channel. I posted the other 2 podcasts with WWE Analyst and a practice one with Grant that we did in preparations for our one on Sunday on this channel as well. So I uploaded the podcast with WWE Analyst on this channel. Enough plugging for network and my videos. That is it for my video. See y'all later for the review and stuff for Mania. And despite the long and winding road, here we are, WrestleMania weekend. And despite lack of hype, it's still WrestleMania weekend. It's still a fun weekend. With that in mind, y'all been attacked by the review from Zach. Thank you very much for watching the Hall of Fame review. See ya. Ooh, yeah. Dig it.